We lost this war 15 years ago. All Joe Biden was doing is telling us what time it is.
You know the mainstream press is screwing it up when even James Carville is calling it out. So this is a very rare moment of James Carville being correct. Here he is on MSNBC calling out the mainstream press's coverage of Afghanistan.
James, do midterm voters in 2022 carry foreign policy along with them when they go to vote?
Well, first of all, there's no elegant way to lose a war. We lost this war 15 years ago. All Joe Biden was doing is telling us what time it is. And the hysterical and stupid coverage of the mainstream press, it's been awful. Just read New York Magazine, Josh Marshall on Talking Points. What's hurting Biden's approval now more than anything is this virus has come back when people thought that it was not. But it's kind of hard to know. And Admiral Mullen, who's one of the most courageous people in uniform, said, look, I was just wrong about this in 2011. Only one of the few people in this whole establishment that recognized the fact that this was a lost war and Biden didn't do anything but tell us the truth. And the evacuations are actually going much better than a lot of people expected. But there's no good way to lose war, right? I didn't serve in Vietnam, but I was a Vietnam era vet, and we lost that war. It looks bad. The country looks bad. When you lose a war, you don't look good. This war was lost a long time ago, and Joe Biden had nothing to do with losing this war. He wanted us out before this.
All right, so before I even get to any analysis here, they have to get James Carville a mic. I mean, if you're going to bring this guy on cable news, at the very least, get him a mic so you can hear him properly. He's speaking through, I don't even know what he's speaking through there. You can barely hear what he's saying. But, so, James Carville, lead strategist for Bill Clinton in 92. That is why they still bring him on 30 years later. It's amazing. But he's, his analysis is usually from 1992. But here, he is exactly correct. The mainstream press, and it isn't even just about, pulling out of Afghanistan. I don't, at this point, unless it's Fox News, I don't think there's anybody really calling to stay in the country. They're more criticizing him over how Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. And I had some of those criticisms at the beginning as well. As you see the chaos with the airplane, and then of course the most recent attack at Kabul airport, and you think there had to have been a better way to do this, but there wasn't. The more I looked into it, the more I realized the U.S. evacuated 70,000 people over 10 days. That's incredible. And the reason why they are doing this all in a short time frame is to limit the chaos as much as possible. If they began these mass evacuations, months ago, then it opens up a larger window of time where there could have been more events like what happened at Kabul airport. So by limiting the duration of pulling out of the country, you actually limit the ability for those sorts of attacks to happen. So chaos was inevitable. It was just a matter of how much chaos. And I think Biden here, by limiting the duration of the pullout, actually did the right thing. So I am just amazed to have somebody who's usually wrong about everything, James Carville, on MSNBC, correct about this issue. And I want to play one more clip. He mentions there Joint Chiefs Chair Admiral Mike Mullen, former Joint Chiefs Chair Mike Mullen, that is the one member of, the one former member of the military here that is calling this out, that is admitting to being wrong. And he was part of the decision-making process to stay in Afghanistan. And he's now saying he was wrong. So I want to play a clip of that from ABC News.
You, in 2011, said the strategy was the right one, to try and train up the Afghan forces.
Right.
When you look back now?
The capitulation of the Afghan forces obviously is getting great focus right now. In retrospect, it didn't work because they stood down, and I think they actually stood down so that they individually could survive, given the Taliban were coming back in. I thought we could build the army and give them a chance to create structures which would run a country in a much more modern fashion. That just is not the case.
So when you look back on those years, are you really kind of beating yourself up over that?
Well, I am, yeah. What I thought we could do, and I advised President Obama accordingly, is I thought we could turn it around. Obviously, I was wrong.
That's incredible. It's so rare to see people in power admit they were wrong. So when you see it, I mean, this should be one of the bigger stories right now. If the mainstream press wants to cover this issue properly, talk to the people who were part of the decision-making process to stay in Afghanistan and have now admitted they were wrong to do so. I mean, that should be one of the bigger stories right now. So it's just this, and of course, it isn't just, it's not that, I don't think journalists, White House reporters are even really aware of their bias here. It's that they are so influenced by what's around them. And what's around them usually are former generals who are on the boards of defense contractors and want to see these wars go on forever because it benefits their defense contractors. So because they're surrounded by these people that they view as experts, that is why this coverage is so biased against Joe Biden's decision to pull out or how he pulled out, because you have these people around these journalists saying that, oh, we should stay there forever. We should have done this, this, and this, and this, when the reality is those same people were the ones that made the mistake of going into Afghanistan to begin with.